There was no bigger threat to freedom in the early 20th century than Nazi Germany. Today, we live a prosperous life due to the brave men who served in fighting World War II, fighting the Nazi threat. In honor of these men and their sacrifice, the Victory Peace Memorial was erected, located in downtown Toronto at Coronation Park. The monument was commissioned by the City of Toronto to celebrate the 50th anniversary of World War II and unveiled in 1995. Made of bronze masonry in the shape of two very large warped walls, meant to be shaped in the way of a ship's bow. The monument was made to commemorate Canada in the Second World War and all those who fought for Canada during the war. The monument was made by artist John McEwen. The reason for the monument was to build to commemorate the sacrifice of all the Canadians who died both away and at home during the war effort to defeat the Nazi threat. The monument has many small bits on the four walls that give us information about the death and destruction of the war. On the side facing the water, the left panel there, we have all the Canadian ships that were lost in action or destroyed by German U boats. We see a large amount concentrated around the northeastern part of Europe, also along the Atlantic Ocean, being due to the fact that there is likely many ships used for supplies and troops moving from Canada to Europe. On the right panel, there are several smaller bits. One of the more prominent features is a broken swastika that has the word together and another below saying tyranny defeated. This plaque also has the Canadian coat of arms in the top left, with all those who died during the war and at home below it. The second wall also has a small map of the northwest of Europe to commemorate the lives lost across the region over the war, with an arrow pointing to the northern shores of France with the words D-Day beside the arrow below it. Similarly, there is a small map of Italy commemorating the lives of the men who died in Italy. Also illustrated was the Adolf Hitler line in southern Italy. On the floor here, the word sacrifice and I believe currently unable to see due to all the snow. It was made to in order to honor all of those who had sacrificed their lives in Europe. Now, flipping to the other side of the monument across the way, another two bronze walls slanted like the bows of a ship with the simple words from sea to sea, the Canadian motto. The motto also scripted in French above it. One of the words, the other word in the maple leaf on the floor is the word hope. The maple leaf sits covered in snow right now. One of my many questions I had leaving the site was why there was little to no detail on the monument with the Canadian model from sea to sea, as I feel it's a bit barren in comparison to the other side, where tons of information regarding the events of World War II, even down to all of the listed bases that were used to train pilots during the war. The site is often visited for important dates, and one of these dates was last year on May 8th, 2025, the 80th anniversary of the day Netherlands were liberated, putting an end to the war in Europe. A delegation of people came to the Victory Peace Memorial, including all still alive veterans who fought during World War II with their own families, along with members of the Canadian Armed Forces. They had a wreath laying ceremony at around sunset at the Victory Peace Memorial, showing how even members of the community within Canada used the site to remember those who gave their lives in hope for a better future. I read all the different ships. I read all the different ships sunk by U-boats, and all the different locations at the Canadian air bases, and all of those who died during the war. They also have listed the number of people who helped at home, with over 3 million Canadians involved in both essential war services and essential civilian employment. This tells us how vital the home front was, with Canada having only a population of 11 million. However, 25% of our population was used to support the war, and around 10% of our population was used to directly influence the ability of the Canadian Army, as they were directly responsible for the creation of war supplies being labeled in the Victory Peace Monument. As I was reading and understanding that war is not won by soldiers, but won by the common person, who wakes up and supports those who fight overseas. This became apparent when we compared the amount of soldiers that were involved in the war on Canada's behalf, with being around 1 million people sent to Europe to fight the Nazi threat. Only one third of the total home front force needed within Canada to sustain itself and keep its men supplied. When I had gone to visit the monument on Saturday morning, when we had arrived, I had felt my heart rate increase, and I got a little nervous. As we got closer, I started to feel the importance and the weight of where I stood. Going to this monument, I started to understand why it was built. Humans often make monuments to allow for future generations to understand the importance of these events and to ensure that people's sacrifices are not forgotten by the later generations. The Victory Peace Memorial Monument was made by John McEwen to ensure this very fact, to ensure that there is no way of history repeating itself and causing as much death and destruction that was caused by World War II in Nazi Germany. I used AI in this assignment to make sure I had been using correct grammar and spelling for certain terms. I found using AI as a grammar tool to be very helpful in writing my transcript, as it allowed me to be able to focus on more of the quality of my writing rather than being concerned with grammar and spelling, allowing me to focus allowing me to focus to ensure allowing me to focus to ensure a good level of completion.